Men, cheating doesn't always start with lies. It often starts with manipulation. Long before she crosses the line, she'll try to rewrite the rules in your mind. How? With carefully chosen words that make betrayal seem normal, even acceptable. These aren't random phrases. They're psychological weapons designed to silence your instincts, twist your perception, and make you question your reality. Today, we're exposing 5 gaslighting phrases women use to prepare you to accept cheating as normal. Before we dive in, hit subscribe, smash that like button, and hit the hype by dropping a comment if you've ever been made to feel like you were the crazy one for suspecting something that turned out to be true. Phrase 1. You're just being insecure. Reframing your instinct as weakness. One of the most common gaslighting tactics. Anytime you question her behavior, late replies, secretive phone use, new male friends, she dismisses your concerns as insecurity. Female psychology calls this reframing, shifting the focus from her suspicious behavior to your supposed flaws. Once she makes you believe your instincts are just insecurity, you stop trusting them. And that's exactly what she wants. This phrase is devastatingly effective because it pathologizes your natural protective instincts. Your gut is telling you something is wrong. You're noticing behavioral changes, inconsistencies, or situations that reasonably warrant concern. But instead of addressing the actual issues you're raising, she diagnoses you with insecurity, transforming your legitimate observations into your psychological problem. Notice how this reframing shifts all responsibility. Her suspicious behavior isn't the problem. Your reaction to it is the problem. She's not acting inappropriately. You're perceiving inappropriately. The actual evidence that triggered your concern disappears from discussion, replaced by analysis of your supposed character defects. This tactical shift means she never has to explain or justify her behavior, because the conversation becomes entirely about your insecurity. Pay attention to when this accusation appears. Does it come up every single time you express concern about anything? If you're being insecure, is her default response to any question about her behavior, whereabouts, or relationships with other men? She's not addressing legitimate insecurity. She's using the accusation as blanket shield against all accountability. Watch whether she distinguishes between insecurity and reasonable concern. Actual insecurity means being worried without basis in reality. Reasonable concern means noticing concrete behavioral changes or situations that warrant explanation. If she calls everything insecurity without acknowledging any difference between irrational anxiety and justified questions, she's deliberately conflating them to avoid accountability. Listen to whether she offers reassurance along with the accusation. Someone genuinely dealing with partner's insecurity would reassure them while addressing the feeling. But if she only attacks your insecurity without providing any reassurance or transparency that would actually address the concern, she's not trying to help you feel better. She's trying to make you feel worse for questioning her. Notice the emotional impact of repeated insecurity accusations. Over time, do you find yourself hesitating to voice concerns even when something seems obviously wrong? Do you second-guess your own perceptions and dismiss your instincts? This self-doubt is the intended outcome. She's training you not to trust yourself so you won't challenge her behavior. Check whether your concerns are actually being proven right over time. Are the things she called you insecure about turning out to be legitimate? Is the friend you were worried about becoming increasingly present in her life? Did the behavior you questioned intensify rather than stop? When your supposedly insecure concerns keep being validated by subsequent events, the problem was never your insecurity. It was her gaslighting. The psychological purpose of this phrase is destroying your confidence in your own judgment. If she can convince you that your instincts are just insecurity and your concerns are character flaws, you'll stop voicing them. You'll stop investigating red flags. You'll stop asking questions. And in that silence, she has complete freedom to betray you while you question yourself instead of questioning her. Phrase 2. You don't own me. Equating accountability with control. A powerful emotional manipulation. When you ask reasonable questions like, "Who are you going with?" or "Why didn't you reply?" she frames it as control. This turns the conversation into a moral debate about freedom rather than a discussion about loyalty. The psychological goal is to shame you into silence so she can operate without scrutiny. It's not about ownership, it's about accountability, but she'll blur that line deliberately. This phrase weaponizes the legitimate concept of personal autonomy to avoid relationship accountability. She takes your reasonable expectation of transparency in a committed relationship and reframes it as oppressive ownership. By doing so, she makes you the villain for expecting basic relationship standards while positioning herself as a freedom fighter resisting your tyranny. Notice the false equivalency she's creating. Ownership means treating someone as property without their autonomy or consent. Accountability means expecting transparency and honesty in a mutually committed relationship. These are completely different concepts, but she deliberately conflates them to make normal relationship expectations sound abusive. Pay attention to which questions trigger this response. Is it when you ask where she's going with friends? Is it when you notice she's been texting someone constantly? Is it when you ask why plans changed? If basic questions about her activities trigger accusations of ownership, she's not protecting her freedom. She's protecting her secrets. Watch whether she applies this standard reciprocally. Does she expect to know your whereabouts, who you're with, and what you're doing? Does she ask questions about your activities and relationships? If she expects transparency from you while calling your identical expectations ownership, the double standard reveals this isn't about principle, it's about her wanting freedom to act without accountability. Listen to the language she uses around independence and freedom. Does she frame the relationship itself as constraint on her freedom? Does she suggest that commitment means loss of autonomy? This perspective reveals someone who views relationships as limiting rather than as partnerships based on mutual consideration and transparency. Notice whether she's creating separate spaces in her life that you're completely excluded from. Is she insisting on activities, friendships, and entire spheres of life where you have no visibility or involvement? While healthy relationships include individual activities, complete compartmentalization, where you're systematically excluded from large portions of her life, isn't independence. It's creating space for betrayal. Check whether her need for freedom has intensified recently. If she previously was comfortable with normal relationship transparency, but suddenly needs absolute freedom without questions, something has changed that makes accountability threatening to her. This shift often coincides with beginning of affair or interest in potential affair partner. Watch how she responds when you explain the difference between ownership and accountability. Does she acknowledge the distinction? Does she recognize that committed partners reasonably expect some transparency? Or does she continue insisting that any expectations at all are controlling? Her refusal to acknowledge legitimate differences reveals she's using the ownership accusation strategically, not sincerely. The psychological manipulation here is making you choose between being a supportive partner or having any boundaries at all. If you accept that asking questions equals ownership, you've given her blank check to do anything without accountability. She's free to betray you completely while you remain silent because she's convinced you that even noticing would make you oppressive owner rather than concerned partner. Phrase 3. All my friends do this, it's normal. Redefining boundaries. This is a classic normalization tactic. By saying everyone does it, she's attempting to rewrite what counts as suspicious. Whether it's flirting online, going to clubs alone, or maintaining close contact with exes, she'll make it seem standard. Over time, you start doubting your sense of what's right and wrong. and behaviors that once looked like red flags begin to feel acceptable. The appeal to popularity is logically fallacious but psychologically powerful. She's creating false consensus where her problematic behavior becomes acceptable because she claims it's widespread. If everyone does it, how can you object without seeming unreasonable or out of touch with modern relationship norms? Notice which behaviors specifically she's claiming are normal. Is it maintaining intimate friendships with ex-partners? Is it going out to clubs and parties without you? Is it engaging in flirty conversation or physical contact with other men? Is it keeping significant portions of her life secret? The specific behaviors she's normalizing often reveal what she's already doing or planning to do. Pay attention to whether all her friends actually do these things. Do you know her friends? Have you observed their relationships? Or is she making claims about their behavior that you have no way to verify? Often, the all my friends claim is fabricated or exaggerated to create the illusion of consensus that doesn't actually exist. Watch whether her friends' relationships are actually healthy and stable. Even if her friends do engage in these behaviors, are their relationships thriving or failing? If she's normalizing behaviors based on friends whose relationships are chaotic, drama-filled, or ending in betrayal, she's choosing terrible models to justify her own choices. Listen to whether she's surrounding herself with people whose behavior validates hers. Has she gravitated toward friends who have loose boundaries, engage in infidelity, or normalize behaviors that facilitate cheating? People often choose social groups that reinforce the behaviors they want to engage in without judgment. Notice whether she's equally accepting of you engaging in the same behaviors. Can you maintain close friendships with attractive ex-girlfriends? Can you go out to bars without her? Can you have private conversations and secret friendships? If these behaviors are only normal when she does them, the normalization is self-serving manipulation, not genuine belief in these relationship standards. Check whether relationship experts, counselors, or healthy relationship models actually consider these behaviors normal. Research what therapists say about maintaining intimate contact with exes, excessive time in clubs and party environments, and secretive opposite-sex friendships. You'll find that healthy relationship experts consider these behaviors risky at minimum and often problematic, not normal and healthy as she claims. Watch how the normalization escalates over time. Does she start with claiming relatively minor things are normal, then gradually expand to more serious boundary violations? This incremental normalization is strategic. She's slowly moving your goalposts, so behaviors you'd never have accepted initially seem reasonable because you've been conditioned through gradual progression. The psychological purpose is making you doubt your own judgment about appropriate relationship boundaries. If you believe her behaviors are normal and your concern about them is abnormal, you'll stop objecting. She's systematically redefining what's acceptable so that when she eventually cheats, you'll have been so thoroughly conditioned that you might even question whether it's really cheating or just another normal behavior. Phrase 4. If you trusted me, you wouldn't ask. Turning trust into blind obedience. This phrase is about flipping the script entirely. She makes trust sound like unquestioning acceptance, when in reality, real trust is built on transparency. This is called guilt conditioning. If you ask questions, you're untrusting, and if you stay silent, you're supportive. Over time, this emotional pressure conditions you to stop questioning her, even when the evidence is right in front of you. This manipulation redefines trust in a way that benefits her deception. She's claiming that trust means never verifying, never questioning, never asking for transparency. But authentic trust in healthy relationships is built on consistent honesty and transparency, not on blind faith without evidence. Notice the impossible standard she's creating. According to this logic, the act of asking any question about her behavior proves you don't trust her. But how does trust get built and maintained? through consistent honesty and transparency that allows partners to feel secure. She's demanding the outcome, your trust, without providing the foundation, her transparency and honesty, that trust requires. Pay attention to whether she provides transparency voluntarily or only when questioned. Does she proactively share information about her activities, who she's with, and what she's doing? Or is all information extracted through your questions, which she then uses as evidence that you don't trust her? Partners worthy of trust typically offer transparency freely because they have nothing to hide. Watch whether she's doing anything to earn or rebuild trust. If trust has been damaged, perhaps by previous lies, inconsistencies, or suspicious behavior, is she actively working to rebuild it through increased transparency and consistency? Or is she simply demanding you trust her while continuing behaviors that undermine trust in the first place? Listen to whether she acknowledges that trust is earned through behavior, not owed regardless of behavior. In healthy relationships, trust is built and maintained through consistent honesty. When someone demands trust without providing the transparency that would justify that trust, they're usually hiding something that would undermine trust if revealed. Notice whether you're allowed to have any verification of her claims. Does she support transparency in ways that would confirm her honesty? Sharing passwords, introducing you to friends, being open about plans? Or does she insist you must simply believe her while preventing any verification? Resistance to verification usually indicates there's something that verification would reveal. Check whether your questions are actually reasonable given the context. Are you interrogating her about every minute of her day, or are you asking basic questions about significant changes in behavior, new relationships, or suspicious circumstances? If your questions are reasonable responses to genuine red flags, her claiming they prove distrust is manipulation. Watch how she responds to your need for reassurance. Does she recognize that when concerning things happen, partners need reassurance through honest explanation? Or does she treat any need for reassurance as character flaw and sign of distrust? Partners in healthy relationships understand that reassurance is a normal part of maintaining security. The psychological manipulation is creating guilt around normal relationship communication. If she can make you feel guilty every time you ask a question, you'll eventually stop asking. And once you stop asking, she has complete freedom to hide anything because she's trained you that asking questions makes you a bad partner. Trust becomes redefined as willful ignorance, which is exactly what she needs to betray you undetected. Phrase 5. You're just paranoid. Undermining your reality. A textbook gaslighting move. When she says this, she's not addressing your concern, she's attacking your sanity. Female psychology shows that repeated accusations of paranoia can make even the most rational man doubt his perception. Once that doubt sets in, she's free to operate in the shadows while you question your own judgment instead of her actions. Calling someone paranoid is fundamentally different from addressing their concerns. Paranoia is a psychological condition involving irrational beliefs without basis in reality. But if your concerns are based on observable changes in her behavior, inconsistencies in her stories, or suspicious circumstances, you're not paranoid, you're observant. She's trying to pathologize your awareness. Notice the pattern of what gets labeled paranoid. Does she call you paranoid every time you notice something suspicious? Does any observation of her behavior immediately get dismissed as paranoia? If the paranoia accusation is her response to all questions, regardless of how well-founded they are, she's using the term as blanket dismissal rather than accurate description. Pay attention to whether your concerns are actually being validated by subsequent events. Are the things she called paranoid suspicions turning out to be true? Is the behavior you questioned continuing or escalating? Are inconsistencies in her stories being exposed? When reality keeps confirming your suspicions, you're not paranoid. She's gaslighting you. Watch whether she provides any evidence that would disprove your concerns. Someone genuinely dealing with partner's unfounded paranoia would offer transparency and evidence to reassure them. But if she only attacks you for being paranoid without ever providing reassurance or explanation that would actually address the concern, she's not trying to help your paranoia. She's trying to silence your accurate perceptions. Listen to how she describes your mental state. Does she suggest you need therapy? Does she imply you're mentally unstable? Does she tell others you're paranoid, potentially isolating you and undermining your credibility? These escalations from dismissing concerns to questioning your sanity are classic gaslighting tactics. Notice the impact on your self-perception. Do you find yourself constantly questioning whether your perceptions are real? Do you dismiss your own observations because she's convinced you they're paranoid delusions? Are you afraid to voice concerns because you don't want to seem paranoid? This systematic self-doubt is the goal. She's making you unable to trust your own judgment. Check whether other people validate your concerns or echo her paranoia diagnosis. Do trusted friends or family members think your concerns are reasonable? Or do they agree with her that you're being paranoid? Outside perspectives can help you distinguish between actual paranoia and accurate perception that's being dismissed as paranoia. Watch whether she's creating situations that deliberately trigger your concerns, then calling you paranoid for having them. Is she maintaining suspicious friendships, then calling you paranoid for being concerned? Is she being secretive, then calling you paranoid for noticing? Creating the very situations that would reasonably trigger concern, then attacking you for the concern, is sophisticated manipulation. The psychological purpose is making you distrust your own perceptions more than you distrust her behavior. Once you doubt yourself fundamentally, you can't effectively challenge her because you're too busy questioning whether your own observations are real. Gaslighting works by eroding your confidence in your ability to perceive reality accurately, leaving you dependent on her version of reality, which conveniently excludes her betrayal.